Hello, my name is Max Olson, and I am a rising sophomore at Mass Art. I wanted to make just a short little video for this panel because I couldn't be there in person for the event. So I'll just introduce myself very quickly. I'm currently enrolled in the art education program with a specialization in illustration, which means I'm taking both education and illustration courses at the same time, but I'm not a double major, and it all just goes into one degree. Uh, I am currently working towards a goal of becoming a teacher, obviously, as my primary career, but also working on things like comic and character illustration. And our education program is a really good way to basically set yourself up for both a career in teaching, as well as a way to get involved in greater creative fields. So that's not what I want to talk about today, but I wanted to give a little brief synopsis of what that is. So beside that, I wanted to talk about the process for applying to art schools and how to build a portfolio for yourself. And I'm also going to show some examples of pieces that I included in my portfolio just to give you a general idea of what your portfolio might look like. So every school that you apply to is going to want different things from you, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach. But there are some general pointers I can give for portfolios and college applications overall. So I've narrowed it down to 6 points that I'm going to briefly mention here in this presentation. So for your portfolio, that's really only one piece of the puzzle. Your college is also going to want to take a look at your application. So that'll be where you list things like your interests, clubs and activities, sports, jobs that you have. And that will also be where your essay is, which is one of the kind of more important components of your application process. And that's something that depending on what school you go to, things that your English teacher or your guidance counselor will help you sort out and work through. The first thing to keep in mind when you're applying to art colleges is that not everything in your application has to be about art. Colleges want to see students who are quote-unquote well-rounded, which means that you have a wide variety of skills and hobbies and interests. So don't worry if you're not, president of art club or working at like a pottery shop or anything. The schools that you're applying to want to see more than anything else that you have just positive traits, and those are things that can come through in your listed clubs, activities, test scores, and your portfolio. So with the portfolio itself, you'll want to think about a couple things. First, it's good to know that you really have no restrictions for what you can put in your portfolio as far as the subject matter. So schools, I know at least my school, didn't want us to, in art classes and in art shows, display things like artistic nudity or gore or violence or anything that had to do with like drugs. But if you do have artwork that involves those things, just know that it can be included in your portfolio if you feel like that's a good representation of your quality of work. Next thing that you're gonna want to keep in mind is that you really need to know what each school you're applying to wants to see from your portfolio. This is going to vary based on what major you can want to go into. So a sculpture program, you're probably going to want to put in pottery, or an illustration program will want to see your charcoal portraits, things like that. Additionally, different schools are probably going to require that you include, they might require that you include something like unique in their portfolio. For example, RISD has their kind of drawing of a bike requirement. So every student that applies has to draw a bike for them. And I think that CalArts requires that you do a full sketchbook for them. But again, you're going to want to make sure that you research what your portfolio, what each school wants from your portfolio, like way in advance. Okay. So the next thing to know is that you should definitely not sacrifice the quality of your work for the sake of displaying a wide multitude of skills or things. So illustration specific, it's good to kind of include things like portraits, figure drawings, sceneries, or even like abstract paintings. It's just whatever you're the best at. That's what you're going to want to include. Definitely don't include a piece if you feel like you're second guessing yourself about whether you like it or not, or whether colleges will like it. It's going to be the most important thing is that you are confident in this work, you like it, and you think it's your best work. This can be a good time to point out that several schools will offer things like portfolio reviews. So, for example, if you go in for, say, a college tour, they might also be offering a portfolio review day at the same time where you can get advice and guidance from individuals who are involved in the application process. You don't have to do this. I personally didn't, but it can be helpful regarding sort of figuring out what other people are interpreting or seeing when they look at your work. So moving on from that, one of the other really important things to do is to include recent work. It should be mainly recent work. So things from the last year or two, maybe a bit further back if you're somebody who works very slowly, or if you have an older piece that you particularly like or are proud of that's a little bit older. But one of the kind of more important things that relates to this is knowing the requirements for each school that you're applying to just way ahead of time so that you give yourself as much time as possible to work on your portfolio. This way you won't be surprised if a school has extra requirements for an application, like that drawing of a bike or like that sketchbook. And so you'll have at least several months to either do that or pull all of your art together, evaluate it, make changes and additions, and just perfect the image that you're giving to the schools that you're applying to so they get the best possible impression of you from your portfolio. So with all that being said, to go quickly over the points, first, showcase all of your personality and skills through your college application and your portfolio. Second, know that you don't have to restrict or limit the subject matter of your portfolio. 3, know what each school requires of your portfolio before you apply. And 4, don't sacrifice quality of your work for breadth. 5, include mainly recent work that reflects your current artistic intent. And 6, give yourself as much time as possible to work on your portfolio. So with all of these points, you'll have a starting point to applying to art schools, but you should definitely reach out to your art teachers or counselors for extra help throughout the application process. And another important thing is to know that you don't have to apply to an art or design specific school in order to have a career in art. There are so many ways to get connected into the art world outside of just universities. especially with, the internet nowadays. And there are also art programs at non-art specific colleges. So, no, your career path doesn't have to follow a specific traditional route. Um, you really, there are so many ways to get involved. Um, so keep that in mind as you are moving into, you know, the transition period between high school and college. So I hope all this helped. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment or reach out to me on social media, or just ask one of the other panelists after the video is shown. Um, but yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you for participating in Activate. I hope you all have a good time. Bye bye.